Inner Mongolia. What a beautiful change of scenery that was.
Seriously.
When I close my eyes, I can almost see it. When I take a breath, you fill up my lungs.
It's the holiday season, and now is the time to really watch out for your internet security, because while you're really celebrating and getting together with family, cybercriminals are on the prowl, because you know what? They want to fill up their stockings too.
That's why we like to use NordVPN. NordVPN keeps you safe, encrypted, and anonymous when you're on the internet, not just during the holiday season, but all throughout the year, whenever you're online. You don't want people sitting outside your house, getting on your Wi-Fi and taking all of your information. You don't want people taking your credit card information. You don't want people getting your identity. You want to keep yourself safe online, and that's why using a VPN is very important. If you go to nordvpn.com/ADVChina, not only are you going to get a massive discount, but you're also going to get free additional months. And that's just a fantastic deal. And at the same time, you're going to be helping out the channel too. So thanks.
It actually blew me away. I know that you'd spent some time up there previously doing teaching. Was that your first experience in China? Your second experience?
Second experience. We're not counting Taiwan.
No.
No, I spent almost 2.5, almost 3 years there.
Yeah.
And I didn't plan on leaving, to be honest. Life gets in the way.
Yeah.
One of the most amazing places in the world, though.
Yeah.
You guys picture Mongolia, you probably picture grassland, steppe.
Well,
Those dudes with the hawks on their arm.
That's the thing. It's like I kind of knew that's what it was like, but you know what? Especially in China, you hear a lot about a place. There's a lot of, you see those brochures, you see all that, and you're like, okay, that's just fake. Okay, but you know, it's always hyped up. But when you get there, it really is. I'm not talking about like the actual Mungu baos, like the yurts, or anything like that, or the culture, because that also is very touristy up there. It's very fake, a lot of it. But what I'm talking about is the scenery. It blows you away.
It does.
I mean, it's like looking at the ocean, except it's grass.
Yeah. It's really actually kind of life-changing. People talk about prairies and stuff. I've seen the prairies in the U.S. It's very different because it's the way that it rolls. It's like this, and it goes forever. It just goes amazing. Forever.
Remember when we were stuck out there?
Yeah.
And we literally couldn't see anything around us.
No,
we were searching.
No cell phone signal.
Nothing. You're like really lost. It's like being lost at sea.
Yeah.
No
perspective. There's no landmarks.
And everywhere you look, in every direction, it's just on the horizon grass.
What's kind of cool is when you're out there, you run into those random like prayer rock monuments that people make, and that's the only thing you have is for perspective. And I kind of understand why they make them, not just for religious reasons, but because you can get lost and probably die out there.
So easy.
You find animal bones out there.
It was crazy when we were out there looking for this herd of camels for our documentary, and we were just riding, and it seemed like forever. We finally found the camels at the top of this kind of hill, and it was quite a surreal experience.
It was.
We've got some footage here which you can see, and it was incredible. But the reason we're talking about Inner Mongolia is we met a young man there who really kind of got us thinking about, our situation and the situation of many people in China. Maybe you can explain.
Yeah, and I also want to say it made us think about what China could be.
Yeah.
Right. Now, Inner Mongolia used to be part of Outer Mongolia, just a Mongolia proper,
So it's
right?
just Mongolia, yeah.
And there's actually more Mongolian people in China, in Inner Mongolia, which is a province of China, than there is in Outer Mongolia. There's 5 million in China and 2 million outside of China in Mongolia, which is kind of weird, right?
It is, yeah.
So the weird thing is that this is one of the many minorities, as they call them in China, that China has very unsuccessfully been able to integrate into society,
right?
Because they just don't match up. Han Chinese society, so the majority of Chinese society is collective. It lives in big cities. It builds up, right, instead of out, right?
Yep.
It builds around the idea of having a city center and planned infrastructure all around it, right?
Yeah, kind of what we spoke about in our last video.
Yeah. Mongolians do not believe in any of that.
No.
And you might say, oh, well, nomad societies are gone now. They're not gone in Mongolia. No. Mongolians are proud to not stay in one place.
Yeah.
They don't hunker down in one place. They keep moving around and around and around. And in fact, it's almost, when I was speaking to Mongolians when I lived there, they said the one thing that makes us so different than Chinese people is that our parents encourage us to leave home. They encourage us to go somewhere else and get out, right?
Yeah.
In fact, it's embarrassing if we don't, right?
Yeah.
That is diametrically opposed to the nuclear Chinese family.
Sure.
Stay at home till you're married, you're always kind of close together. You don't move far away.
Yeah,
right?
and then your parents move in with you when you get married. Oh, that's terrible,
Yeah.
by the way. That's just so awful. Can you imagine getting married and your in-laws have to live in the same house as you?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
awful.
Yeah.
I mean, it's because there aren't any social programs in China. It makes sense, you get to look after them as they get old. They look after your kids so you can work and bring in money.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense. It's very pragmatic, but
Yeah.
man, dude, coming home to have your mother-in-law bitch at you all night
Yeah.
and cook food and stuff and teach your kid the wrong ideas.
Right.
No.
So you
not
can
my thing.
imagine Mongolian people just don't gel with that, right?
No,
But
sure.
they are forced to live in a semblance of Chinese society.
Yeah.
And the way this works is the hukou system.
Oh, yeah.
The hukou system is the system that says you're born here, you stay here, unless you get this changed somewhere else, which is
Yeah.
very
it's
annoying.
super difficult to do as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like
So-
a passport, but an internal passport.
It's an internal passport. Soviet Union had the same thing.
Yeah.
So, and I think they modeled it after the
Yeah,
Soviet
of course
Union.
they did.
Of course, like
Yeah.
everything. So we ride through, we enter all kinds of problems, which you guys can see in other adventures. We met the SWAT team, we got raided, we met the PLA. The PLA searched all of our stuff. We were harassed the entire time.
It was like our worst experience during our entire trip.
Ever.
And we went to the border of North Korea.
Yeah.
We planned for that. We planned that there would be trouble, so we were very careful.
Yeah.
But we didn't expect we'd get trouble in
The-
Inner Mongolia,
the
so we didn't
border-
plan for it.
The border of Mongolia and all of Inner Mongolia province, which is not a hot place on the map, like China doesn't act like they care about it so much, was much more sensitive than the North Korean border, which
Yeah.
shows you what are they hiding there, right?
Sure,
What's
sure.
going on there? And
Yeah.
we actually found out. It turns out that Mongolians don't want to be a part of China.
Yeah, and there's a lot of terrorist activity.
Yeah, well, that's
Well,
what they say.
Terrorist activity, I'd say like, what would you call it? Separatist?
Separatist activity,
Separatist
yeah.
activity, yeah.
And guess what? They don't want Western journalists reporting on that, right?
Nope.
Which we weren't there to do.
No, we weren't doing
That's
that,
a different story. We want to focus on one man's story.
Yeah.
So as we traveled through these, grasslands, and then turned into desolate kind of deserty scrubland, right? As we're out here, we're herding wild horses with the Mongolians. This was a genuine experience. This wasn't like show up and stay at your Mongolian yurt and have your cooked lamb. A tourist adventure, right? This was
Sure.
a genuine experience, and that's why China was so upset with us being
Yeah.
there. But we met this young man, and he was a Mongolian,
Mm-hmm.
and he was one of the very few people that knew how to make the very old school traditional way of cooking goat. And you actually know some of the history behind that because they didn't have tools and stuff.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So to make it simple for you, what they'd do is they'd make a fire and they use like dung, in order to burn and heat up these rocks. And they take these rocks and they put them inside the goat. So they'll cut a goat open and kill the goat, cut the goat open, take all the meat out, basically take the goat's skin, throw the heavy, throw in the meat and then throw in spices and onions and things like that. And then throw in these really hot rocks and then basically massage it and let it cook itself from the inside. So
Pressure cooked too.
yeah, it's really quite incredible. You end up cooking the goat using nothing other than stones and a
pretty
fire.
incredible.
Yeah, and that's what you do when you don't have ovens and you don't have you're nomadic. You're moving around. You don't have access to all these different
Pots
tools.
and-
Yeah, it's a very simple way of doing it, and it works out incredibly well.
Yeah.
Meat is very tough though.
It is, yeah, because it's cooked. It's not
Yeah.
cooked long, right? It's cooked
Yeah.
quickly.
It's flavorful.
It is very flavorful, though.
But it's very tough.
It is very tough.
But it's a fantastically interesting way of making do with what you have.
yeah.
Yeah, so we had that. Yeah,
we helped kill the goat. We
Yep.
prepared it. We did everything, and we felt like very primal. But not only that, it felt like very special to be part of something that was basically eradicated by China.
Yeah,
This
traditions,
is not Chinese
right?
land.
No, yeah.
If people would still be doing this.
Yep.
So now it's it's a rare trait. So this guy, this kid, had it passed down through his father and his father, and blah blah blah. Long story short, this nomadic boy that wanted to see the world, he wanted to travel around, he wanted to be Mongolian.
Yeah, we say boy, the guy's probably like 19, 20,
Yeah.
around about there. Very handsome young man.
Yep. So he is locked in his hukou. He's locked
Yeah.
in this one little tiny area of the province.
Yeah.
And he is forced to go and do whatever he can. Maybe it's herd goats or do whatever, right?
Yeah.
He wants to participate in other things. He doesn't even know what he wants to do, but he just wants to leave.
He wants to be able to go out and see the world.
Yeah,
type
he
thing,
mentioned
just like
he wants to see
everyone else.
Russia and in his own country, Mongolia. He hasn't seen it yet.
Sure.
He lived like 20 miles from the border.
I know.
Right?
I know.
Hasn't seen it yet. Hasn't been able to go. He wants to see America. He wants to see England. He wants to see all these places and he cried when he talked to us. And he said, you guys get to show up on your motorcycles. You get to experience this and we welcome you and we hope you have a good time. And then you get to go on and explore something else.
Yeah.
I am trapped here. And he insinuated the Chinese government is the reason that he's trapped there. The Chinese government was sending the PLA, was sending government officials to go and harass people and make sure they stay put. They don't talk to other people. They don't get passports and they don't leave. Most importantly.
I mean, he was saying that, because he has a very specialized skill, that people that can do what he does, they can make decent money in other cities in China, but he can't go because
he wants to even explore in China.
Yeah.
He wants to explore.
And I think it's difficult for most people to understand just how restrictive these hukou or internal passports are.
Yeah.
Because if you've got a hukou from a different city, it's incredibly difficult to go to another city and settle down.
Yeah.
I mean, in most places you can't even rent because you don't have a local hukou, right? You can't go to school. Your kids can't go to school if you don't have a local hukou. You get access to nothing if you don't have a local hukou. Opening a bank account, things like that. It's very difficult to do without a local hukou. It's like a residence permit, right? So it's just a kind of a sad situation when you see how restrictive life can be in China.
It's like a prison, right?
Yeah.
It's for people. Imagine people that just are trapped in a cage that can't, they're not forced to do like hard labor, like unpaid or something like the Uyghurs, right?
Yeah.
But they're stuck in a situation where they can't do anything. They can't actually blossom and become what they potentially could become, right?
Yeah, and also bear in mind that if you are of a minority in China, it's even worse.
Yeah.
Because if you're a minority and your hukou says that you are a Mongolian minority or you're a Uyghur minority or you're whichever type, Dong minority, all the different types. And that also like really puts a lot of steps in your way if you want to be traveling around and doing stuff.
Yeah.
Because you're kind of, you're that minority. Well, then you should be over there.
Right.
You should be wearing a tourist outfit.
That's what you should be doing at our AAA tourist, location for Han people to come visit and treat your culture, language, food, and everything like a Disneyland ride.
Yeah, like a Disneyland ride. That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. So I kept in touch with this guy for quite a few years after we filmed.
Yeah.
Right. And I kept asking him, and he never left.
It's unfortunate. He saw he was kind of forced into a marriage, and he's really just that.
Well, because think about it. If your family is not allowed to do what they're supposed to be doing, leaving and doing their own thing, it's more convenient for you to get married and your parents to be like, just get married to this local person and we'll continue the family business of whatever.
Yeah.
Right? That's the only way to kind of survive. So I understand his family's pressure. The money's not coming from the government. You don't get free subsidies.
Yeah.
Right? He has to go do something that's profitable in
Correct.
that little area.
I mean, it sucks because when you see someone who has a spirit of adventure, the same as we have, and
which is rare to see in China,
it's
to be
very rare. And you can see he just wants to go out there, and then you see him be utterly defeated and kind of reduced to just a mundane existence. It's it's heartbreaking.
It is. It really, and he cried, like I said. And it was one of those things that just stuck with me. It's like, I wonder how he's doing now. Obviously we had to cut contact. Yeah. It's the last people he wants to know is going to be us when the government's checking his phone every week or whatever.
That's correct. Yeah. So
anyway,
that's really the be-all and the end-all of that story.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to learn about how China works. It's not just one thronging populace, right? It's not just like, you guys might be seeing stuff about the protests right now or whatever's currently in the news about China, but there's things that will never be addressed.
Yeah, I don't think people realize this. Most people, in countries like the UK or America, I mean, sure, you get your residence, whichever state you're in and so on, but you're free to hop in your car or take a Greyhound bus or whatever it is. If I wanted to go, from Pennsylvania to Washington State, on the West Coast tomorrow, I could do it. Yeah. Nothing's stopping me. No. If I wanted to rent there, pretty simple. I can rent.
Just go and go to the DMV and swap your driver's license.
Yeah, it's very simple to do. And, all you need to do is actually just go and rent. And then, you get, or whatever you want to do, is go stay with friends, get a couple of mails, check delivered to you or something, and then you can go and use that as proof of your...
That's it.
It's done. It's very easy to do. Most people take that for granted because in China you can't just do that. It's a big country, but each individual area is kind of like its own little country within itself. And it's very restrictive as to what you can do. And different areas have different priorities, and different areas have different levels of whether it's good or bad. So if you go to hukou from like a middle of nowhere town, you're going to be treated like scum. If you have a hukou from Shanghai or Beijing or whatever, you're treated way better. You know, it's like a hierarchy. It's a VIP status.
It is.
You know,
It is,
and
for
it's
sure.
it's awful the way it works. Anyway, if you do want to know more about what's going on with the protests and what's going on in the news, that's what our China show is all about, The China Show. Here we talk about our adventures and our motorcycle adventures and stuff. That's what this channel is about. But if you want to be up to date as to what's going on in China right now, head on over to The China Show. Links in the description. Every week we have a show for you, and we'll bring you the latest and greatest on what's going on the ground in China. Cool. So anyway, until next time, like the Mongolian boy, shouldn't call him a boy, the young man.
He's a man now.
He's a man now, yeah. He was but a boy when we first met him. Now he's a man. Like the Mongolian man, stay awesome.